Welcome back to the Doctor's Companion. I'm Cass Fredrickson.
I'm Rick Jimenez.
And I'm Scott Crowley. Is the Rick Jimenez thing, is this like a joke about like 10th Doctor versus 14th Doctor, or?
I don't know yet. I'm figuring it out.
Okay.
Maybe I'll stop when he regenerates into Chudigatwa next week. Maybe I won't. I don't know.
All right. Fair enough.
That's fair.
How long was Rick Grayson a thing?
Like a year.
Okay, maybe we'll do it for a year.
Today we're going to be talking about the second of these 14th Doctor specials, Wild Blue Yonder, written by Russell T. Davies and directed by Tom Kingsley.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we mentioned it. Did we last week that Rachel Talali directed that, or did we?
I think we did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we
All right,
did.
Cool. All right, cool. Yeah, this is like a first for Tom Kingsley, who has just directed like, I don't know, a few episodes of stuff here and there. He's directed, like they do like whole series. I guess he's like the main director on that like BBC Ghosts show.
Ooh, okay. Did
Yeah.
that come after the American one or
No.
before the American one?
Before, like always. But
Okay.
but also I'm pretty sure I don't know, I'm not positive because I don't watch either one. But I think it was only like one series of the BBC, so like 6 episodes, and that was it. And then they remade it for the CBS show, and it's been like, now we're like 2 or 3 seasons deep on that show with like 22 episodes a season, and then they like made a second season of the BBC one. There's only like 12 episodes of the BBC one, and there was like 3 years apart between seasons or something like that, and in between that time they remade the show and like made 4 times as many episodes as the BBC one did.
A living testament to the two styles of because back home over the holidays, been watching more broadcast television than I normally do.
Sure.
And so seeing the ad, they've been promoting the BBC or the UK version of Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And for a second, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Did they remake the American version? That's a fun little.
Oh, yeah.
reversal.
No, they're just airing it on American television for the first time to fill the gap left by the strike stuff. So they're like,
Yeah,
we don't have American Ghosts, so I guess we'll re-air the British one. Whatever.
you guys want to watch the Christopher Walken Peter Pan again? We got that.
Yeah. What else is in here? Just like digging around. What else we got? It's a few old Stephen King miniseries. You guys want one of those?
Lamb.
Yeah. So feels really good to have another episode of Doctor Who already. Right after that last one, because we've gone a very long time, because it was since Flux that we've had 2 episodes air in a row.
Yeah, SF we'll call it.
Yeah. Yes, SF since Flux.
Since Flux.
Yeah. That's and that was 2 years ago. Over 2 years ago, because it was October 2021, I think, is when Flux aired.
I don't know if either of you do this. Yeah, Cass is very alarmed by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Several times this year, whenever how the roller coaster of having a brain. Sometimes I'll tell myself that like, oh, you didn't do anything this year, or oh, you're so unproductive, or whatever. Wow. And I'll say, you know what? We have increased our output of Geek by Night by like 200% this year already.
Yeah,
that's true. At least on the Patreon.
On the Patreon, yeah, like asterisk.
Yeah,
but, like TDC, we've already done like twice the amount of TDC that we were doing like 6 months ago.
It's very true. That cannot be argued. So Wild Blue Yonder, this was sort of highly touted as like the weird one of the 3 specials. Unlike anything that Doctor Who had been done before, or so they said. And yeah. So
can I hate to talk so much at the gate, but it's interesting. When we were recording and we were talking about Wild Blue Yonder, I really didn't have any expectation for it. But as soon as I like opened up my phone that was when I started seeing like interviews with Russell T Davies and David Tennant calling this like the weird one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't know how online you guys have been over the holidays, but like the fandom was going like buck wild with like, oh, this is the one that there's no footage of in any of the trailers.
Right.
Like maybe they'll run into Chudigatwa and Ruby.
Right.
Like, are we going to see Matt Smith?
Right.
And so were either of you aware of any of that fan hype going into the episode, or were you more or less blind? Fresh. Pure.
I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I have basically heard nothing about
Congrats.
this. Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
I did hear all of that, but I kind of just rolled my eyes at all of it because I was like, they're not going to do that. Like I'm like, I've been a Doctor Who fan long enough, and I've listened to the fandom get themselves up in a fervor with like theories and like, oh, what if this doctor's here and then blah 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 blah, and it never ends up being that ever. It's always just a very straightforward story. Always 100% of the time. And so I just didn't buy any of that, and I was like, no, there's just something weird about the episode they don't want you to know about before you watch it. That's all it
Boy,
is.
was there.
Yes, that's all it was. And that's not to take anything away from the episode. The episode rules, but it's not like, I think people were getting hung up on the fact that these are like supposedly 60th anniversary specials. And so I think everyone was like, oh, like we're going to do like all this stuff. And I'm like, no, we're already doing it. We're already doing you have the Doctor and Donna back together again.
Right.
It's David Tennant and Donna. That's what the 60th is. We're getting the culmination of that story finally after 15 years. That's all it is. Chill. Everybody chill.
Someone, a friend of mine, anecdotally, she asked me, I was like, oh, later on I'm going to record my Doctor Who podcast. And she was like, oh, how was the 60th anniversary special? And I stopped and I'm like, there kind of wasn't one, or there's kind of like 3 of them or 4 of them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if Star Beast came out on the 60th anniversary day.
No.
Yeah. So
2 days afterward, but
yeah.
So like, would you call Star Beast the 60th anniversary special the way you would call Day of the Doctor the 50th anniversary special?
Yes and no, I guess. I mean, that is what it is. That's why they're doing this, is for the 60th anniversary. But yeah, it didn't come out on the day because the day was Thanksgiving.
So it's like this whole party is the 60th. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This whole thing. And I think that's why Russell T Davies was like concerned about like, oh, am I doing enough for the 60th? And that's why they did that exclusive to England what is it called? Tales of the TARDIS thing with like all the
retrospective that they're doing.
With all the old companions and classic doctors and stuff, where they're like looking back at old adventures, but then like just airing the old adventure, I guess. And from what I understood from like our overseas listeners, they're like, you're not really missing much. Is what my understanding is. So that made me feel a little bit better.
That's too bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, they're literally just like introducing a story we've already seen before, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it is. They're just like, remember when we did this? And then they're like, yeah, let's watch it. So I think that was probably his concern, but also like, not for nothing, but there's not really anything special about a 60th anniversary, you know? Like I feel like our next like special anniversary will be like the 75th anniversary. That feels momentous in some way. You know, when we get that 15 years from now. But yeah, I don't know. Right now it's just sort of like, okay.
Like, yeah, I mean, Day of the Doctor only being 10 years ago. I guess that isn't that long ago in the scope of Who, in the scope of time.
Yeah. But I feel good about what we're getting, you know? So
oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, so anyway. Yeah, so Wild Blue Yonder, I think the first thing that I want to talk about, just because I don't want to forget to talk about it, and right now it's on my mind. I know that the TARDIS is playing Wild Blue Yonder, the song.
Right.
But like, do we think that there's any other significance to the title and the use of the song? The song, which is the anthem or like theme or whatever for the U.S. Air Force. That's what it's most known for. So Nick, your dad was probably very well aware of what that was. But
did you watch this episode with subtitles by any chance?
No, I did not.
I did.
So I did too, because without wanting to, and I never know how to turn off subtitles on Disney Plus. And and I use my father, the veteran's account. And so I think he is able to maybe do it from his phone because he has the account, but I can't figure out how to turn off subtitles in Disney Plus. So I did watch this with subtitles, even though that's not my usual. And at some point, Scott, during the part where the TARDIS door swings open and the fire shoots out, there's a subtitle that reads U.S. Air Force song plays.
Yeah.
And then it starts to play Wild Blue Yonder.
Right.
Because I didn't know that was like the official like anthem of the Air Force.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that until I looked up like the significance of the Wild Blue Yonder song, and I was like, the U.S. Air Force.
All of that. I'll have to ask my dad. Is like, did they ever make you like sing that outside in the cold, like for punishment? Or something?
It probably made him listen to it a lot.
Yeah, he goes into like Winter Soldier mode when I just mentioned it.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Wild Blue Yonder.
binary.
He just starts like marching out like the Terminator out of your house.
Oh no!
You're like, Dad, no, where are you going?
Oh, who sang the fucking song?
Yeah, but yeah, what do we think is the significance to this song in the episode? Is it just like the TARDIS like went off on its own and it's blue and it's in the wild and whatever, or is there a deeper significance than just like the fact that blue is in the title?
I think that it has to do with the fact that they're like at the very, very edge of the known universe. Like, because that song is about like, discovery and going, like going where no man has gone before. So like, I think it's that. And I also, for when they were trying to figure out what was happening before they realize, like before the Doctor realizes where they are, at first I thought it was like they were underwater. So I'm not sure if that misdirect was like on purpose or not, because I was just like, oh, like, I don't know. Because I thought they were on like a big submarine for a little while until they figured out that they're in space.
Yeah. I mean, there's not if we learned anything from Star Trek, there's not a big difference between space and deep sea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in terms of logistics.
If I may, gentlemen, I did pull up the Wikipedia page for the U.S. Air Force song, which is its official title, often referred to as Wild Blue Yonder. And I've just been skimming through the lyrics because there's a reoccurring conversation in the episode about whether or not this is a song about war or a song for soldiers to sing and whether it's appropriate for children to sing. And because on the one hand, there's lyrics like, here's a toast to the host of those who love the vastness of the sky. To friends, we send a message of the brave who serve on high. And it does kind of have that sweeping, like what Scott said, like the TARDIS is further than it's ever been. And, going back to the Doctor's wife, it chose the Doctor because the TARDIS wanted to go off and explore and be a rebel. But then there are like, there are explicit references to like those who we've lost in the war, get your gun, give him the gun, down we dive, spouting our flame from under, off with one hell of a roar. We live in fame or go down in flame. Nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force. And it's like, okay, yeah, so it is explicitly going back to Mrs. Bean's argument.
Yeah.
And the Doctor kind of walks that line between explorer and soldier sometimes in the show.
Yeah. So Okay. Wild Blue Yonder. Everyone is pointing out is making the midnight comparisons.
Yes.
I mean that is like everywhere. Which is great because, like, you know, the great thing about Midnight, you know, if anyone listening to this is not aware of that episode by title, it's the episode where the Doctor by himself in series 4, Donna is on vacation. He takes a trip on an airplane thing, and then there's like somebody on it gets like turned into an alien or possessed by an alien or something, and then starts like copying him. And it's like just a real creepy episode, and it's all about like tension of the people on the ship and like, let's just throw her out of the ship, and you know, we can't do that, she might still be human, that kind of thing. So it's that episode. It's an episode called Midnight, and what I liked about this as a companion piece to Midnight, because I very much feel like that's what this is. You know, sort of thematically, and the monster is very similar. But I like that Donna's in this one, you know, because that last one was a companion light episode, and so as a companion to Turn Left, which was a Doctor Light episode the following week. So yeah, I like that they're both in this, and they both get to be in Midnight now, which is fun. And part of me, it almost makes me wonder if there's going to be some Turn Left comparisons next week in the Giggle. Yeah.
That's interesting because it kind of carries over, you know, a lot of fans noticed last week how the Star Beast was very reminiscent of, and we talked about it on the show, of like the Runaway Bride or the Christmas Invasion
or Partners in Crime.
Partners in Crime. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wonder how intentional that is. I think each of these specials sort of catching the vibes of classic RTD Donna Tennant episodes.
Right. Is it that, or is it just that Russell T Davies is like, no, I do a certain, I have a structure to my seasons, and I'm still sticking to it all these years later. I don't know. But I really liked this as a companion to Midnight, and I just think that this episode is cool and creepy, and I love that there's a monster in this, but we don't ever get to really see a monster because it's just them acting against themselves. Like, everything about this is so creepy. And as much as the visual effects don't look real 100% of the time in this, I almost feel like it adds to the otherworldly weirdness of this. Especially when they're running down that corridor and their copies are like becoming giants. It just is like, it just adds to like, what am I even looking at right now? You know, it's wild. So yeah, I loved this. I loved all the stuff with the Doctor and Donna and their conversations, and there's other like deep seated stuff that I want to get into, speaking of Flux. But let's save that for a little bit later and just talk about kind of like broadly the episode. But yeah, I loved this. I don't know if I loved it more than last week's episode. I just thought, because it's so different, it's hard to compare the two. I love them both a lot. So I really loved this one too. Cass, what did you think?
I really liked this one. I'm also kind of in the same boat. Like, I like them both for different reasons. So I don't know. It's like, I don't know which one I like more. But I love that the like quote unquote like budget episode looks so expensive still. Like they when they walk into the corridor, I was just like, holy shit. Like it looks so good.
Yeah.
And the like funhouse quality of the like the CGI when they're running away from the knot things made me laugh, which was good, because otherwise I think it would be like almost too scary for like kids, you know, like, because like the awkwardness of some of the CGI kind of broke the tension a little bit, but not in a way that like took me out of it entirely. So I liked that. Yeah, I don't know. I always feel like when it's like a really good episode, I don't have a whole bunch to say about it because it was just like, yeah, that was great. I liked it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll dig in.
Yeah.
There's plenty to talk about. Nick, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I just thought this was a brilliant hour of Doctor Who, and I have so much respect for it. You know, I was talking last week about how fun and what a confection the Star Beast was, and I was perfectly happy with the other 2 episodes being just fun parties, like, oh, we're hanging out with our friends again. But to turn, you know, take a hard left turn and do something that is like up there with the most experimental episodes of Who that exist. And I couldn't help, again, going back to like the internet, the fandom, I thought it was ironic in the coolest way that an episode that so many people were convinced was going to have like Capaldi cameos or Matt Smith cameos was a highlight of these 2 brilliant actors. And watching them play off each other. Cass, you were talking about, like, it's so awesome that you laughed at them getting, that was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, like, it is scary because like the cosmic horror of it is scary, but like the CGI was like just wonky enough that I was just like, oh, this is really funny. Like,
I earnestly had the thought for like a few seconds. I'm like, what if tomorrow I sit down with Scott and Cass and they start talking about the episode and it has nothing to do with this? What if this isn't the episode? What if I'm crazy?
What if I just vividly hallucinated for an hour?
Yeah, like, this isn't the episode. This isn't real.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so I loved it as well, and I can't wait to talk about the Flux stuff.
Yeah. So this one's going to be hard to break down, but let's try our best and start at the top with the Isaac Newton sequence, which I don't really like. It's fun and it's funny and it's very charming and very Russell T Davies. It's also, well, it's interesting because I was mixed on it. I was like, is this more Russell T Davies or does this feel more Moffat-y? And I couldn't quite figure out which side of the seesaw I landed on with it. But it was fun. I just don't know what it had to do with the rest of the episode.
I think it's going to be paid off in the next one. When they come, like, because Donna just starts calling gravity Mavity, which is really funny, but I think that it is probably going to be paid off next time.
Oh.
I saw a tweet that said they wouldn't mind if that became like the Holly Woo in BoJack Horseman, or just for the rest of the show, everyone referred to it as Mavity. I guess I liked it because it is such a light moment in what would turn out to be a pretty heavy cerebral episode. I do, now that you say it though, I can't help but get Moffat though. Like, it is a little Moffat. You can imagine Amy and 11 having this adventure happen.
Yeah, totally.
Cass, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering if it's just like Scott was saying, like, RTD has like a very specific structure that he uses, so he's just like, here's the tiny historical thing, and then we're gonna go do the far future.
Yeah. Oh man. Man. And so then they get stuck, right? And we get that scene, the pretty dramatic scene up the front where the TARDIS disappears. They're exploring the ship and the TARDIS disappears.
Yeah. We get like it, and it's sort of chill because it's like, oh, like the TARDIS is on fire, but he's gonna like reset it so it regenerates, but like, you know, he's got to use a sonic screwdriver or whatever, and he's like, okay, it's good, it's going, we're good. Let's just go like walk around, waste a couple hours, and come back. And when they start walking around, you get that's when you get the conversation about like them both agreeing that Isaac Newton is hot. And then he's like very surprised by that, which again also makes me wonder, like, is he actually, like, what if he's not actually the 14th Doctor? Like, what if he has regenerated into Ncuti, but like something is like covering Ncuti, you know? Like it's like there's something that's like, and then maybe that's Celestial Toymaker related or for next week or whatever. But it made me wonder if like, oh, is he like in there and he just doesn't for something stopping him from fully being like released, coming out. I don't know. Just a thought I had during that whole conversation.
It almost seems to me like it might be the opposite of like the opportunity to wear an old face, but be more, because there's that scene where he like grabs Donna's hands and like kisses them out of like tenderness. And it just goes back to like him saying, I love her. She's my best friend in the whole wide world. And 14 just seems to be much more vulnerable and open than 10 was.
Right.
And so maybe it's almost an act of healing of like doing this with an old face that was very repressed or very,
I
don't know. Cass, what do you think?
I think I saw this online somewhere, like someone was pointing out that the kissing of the hand thing is something that Matt Smith kind of did a lot. So I'm like, I think it's cool that he's like, it doesn't feel like 10 again. It feels like a natural progression, which we kind of talked about last week. Like it feels like a natural progression of this character that we've been hanging out with for the past 15 years longer. And then like how, cause when we were talking about 13, like 13 was very like open and like affectionate about some things. And then she was also like extremely guarded, like much more than I think, the Doctor ever really was, like up to that point. So I think that like maybe I don't know, it works for me. Like it feels like a very natural like response to 13 and how 13 dealt with everything. So that's
Yeah. But I think they are saying this, like, there is a reason that this is David Tennant's face again. And that is weird.
Right.
And that's not supposed to happen.
Right.
So we're going to find hopefully why next week. And like Scott said, maybe it is the toy maker, or maybe it is some weird, like, I've already regenerated, but there is some kind of like residual what's going on.
Right.
I still think that it's that thing that they established in Classic Who where female Time Lords can pick what they look like. I still think that. And like it might be like a plot thing, but I like that even if they never explain it, like that's my headcanon for it.
It's also interesting too, because I think that there's this is the only time in Doctor Who history that we've already known who's next. And so we know that 14 is sandwiched between an emotionally repressed, emotionally immature woman and a gay black man. And so it's almost like Russell T Davies is like he and David Tennant are designing 14 to like bridge the gap between those two things. And it's working really well because he's getting to like write that into the character because he knows where he's coming from and where he's going, which you never do typically with Doctor Who, right? Yeah. So I just think that that's really interesting because it is a one-of-a-kind concept, I guess, so far in the history of the show. But yeah, I don't know. I just really like his performance, just really stuck out in this one. I feel like he was a lot more 10-ish last week. And this week it's more like he feels like he's coming into his own as like the 14th Doctor, what separates him. Did you guys watch the behind the scenes stuff that was on YouTube for this?
Not yet.
No. So one thing that is interesting that I found interesting in that is that they showed, because they wanted to show how the visual effects worked and all of that. So they were showing early animatics of like the scene where the giant versions of them are like chasing them down the corridor. And it's like early animatics. And so they didn't know what the 14th Doctor's look was going to be yet. And what I found interesting was that it was Tennant, but he had like a 5 o'clock shadow, and he had different hair, and his outfit was like 10 inspired, but it was much more just like dark gray, no stripes, just like kind of basic.
Interesting.
Where it was like very different from 10, which I thought was really interesting, sort of like more so accentuating the fact that while he is David Tennant, he is a very different Doctor than 10, you know, which I thought was interesting. And I'm curious, like, I wonder why they may have shifted that later on. And I wonder if we'll find out what happened there with that change, that shift. I don't know. Really just impressed with David Tennant in this episode. Because, you know, I think Donna's great in this. I think Catherine Tate does a killer job. But she's not having to spin as many plates as David Tennant is in this, I don't think, in terms of like the lore and everything. And so, yeah, there's just a lot going on with the 14th Doctor in this. And I was just like kind of struck by all of that while watching the episode. But yeah, TARDIS disappears and they're like, okay, well, here's the deal with the TARDIS. When it senses really bad danger, it bails and only comes back when the danger's gone. So we got to get rid of the danger and then the TARDIS will come back. And so that's the plan. They're like, normal episode from here on out. We just gotta
initiated.
Yeah, we just gotta solve the problem.
Yep. Yeah, that's actually really, I hadn't thought about it like that, but it like distills the whole premise of the show down to like an element.
Right. Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah. What do we think about the little robot guy?
Great.
Okay.
Cass?
It's a good robot. I like how round and friend-shaped he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little rusty, but that's good.
I liked how he was clearly like there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I will say the ship, the background of the ship, like the big tunnel that they're in.
Yeah.
Hella Spy Kids.
Yes. I definitely.
I was like, I can't believe I'm going to tell this to Scott about a second thing in 1 week.
Yeah. No, it's very, very Spy Kids, and it's in the behind the scenes thing. I mean, the only thing that was real was the floor, and the robot, and then the panels that they were on, that they were climbing on, and then it was flipping around. Those were also practical, but everything around the little hexagon shape that spun around was green screen.
It looks so good.
It did look good. I do think that it looked good, and I think that it was very Spy Kids, though. It definitely was.
Spy Kids revival, redemption.
Yeah.
But it accentuated how much I think that robot was like, oh, that's a real practical robot there. That's really cool.
For sure. What did we think about the first scene where, like, how long did it take you guys to clock that we weren't going back and forth between like past and future with the two conversations going on between the Doctor and Donna in those two locations?
As soon as it went over to where the Doctor was still working in that other room, I was like, oh no, this is not good.
Oh, okay.
Some of the best editing I have ever seen in an episode of television, let alone Doctor Who, because so much of editing is subconscious without you realizing it, so much so that our brains have now kind of mutated to understand stuff cinematically because we watch so much movies. But like just the way I just knew something was off in a really unsettling way, because that's not how editing is supposed to work. And then it's like, wait, why is the frame different? Or like, was this in the past? When did this happen? And that level of disorienting, like, wait, when is this? Where are we? Who am I? Wait, oh my God, am I watching two sets of characters?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, crazy. And again, I was like, am I having a seizure? This is really the episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this. A lot of that feeling. Yeah, and then we meet the doubles because their arms are too long.
I hated that. I hated that part.
Yeah, no, it's pretty messed up stuff. But also still very Spy Kids, to be perfectly honest.
That's true.
And that kind of added, Cass compared it to like how like sometimes like lo-fi, bad on purpose, or kind of like, it's interesting how I guess like, what we're talking about, Spy Kids, that's like 20 years old at this point. But like when the Doctor did, or when the Not Thing Doctor did its like weird exorcist crawl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I was back into the 2000s watching RTD1, but in like this really unsettling, kitschy way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. There is, like I mentioned last week with Beep the Meep, I just think that like Russell T Davies has figured out how to balance his camp appropriately without like taking you out of the show in any way. And I don't know if that's like the visual effects have finally caught up. So now like it doesn't look as cheesy as it used to, or what it is, but whatever it is, it's like working perfectly. 'Cause it's still campy, but it doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't quite get to that level of like cheesiness or anything like that. Like this was like genuinely unsettling.
But it's still a little bit moisturized me.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. God, could you imagine with these visual effects? Oh man.
I think the most useful way to talk about this episode, because we do get a bit like what is a scene or like when are we, is the scene kind of become this episode becomes a series of conversations between a real version of the Doctor and Donna and a fake version of Doctor and Donna, and the real ones have to suss out, or we the viewer have to suss out which is the real one and which is the not thing.
Right.
And the way they do that is by interrogating each other and asking really personal, character-centric questions about who they are and what they're afraid of. And so I think the brilliance of this episode, it is so weird and out there and sometimes even goofy, but it all goes back to these two friends talking, and we get to learn about 14, and we get to learn about what these 15 years meant to Donna. And I was like, oh, this is the goods. This is really great.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about that, let's talk about the Timeless Child and Flux and all of that stuff, because I have to say, and I know I'm seeing mixed responses to this, to the fact that it was even brought up, because everyone wanted him to just drop it. I respect the hell out of Russell T Davies saying like, no, I'm not doing what I did last time, and I'm not doing what Stephen Moffat did when he took over the show, and we're not doing what Chibnal did when he took over the show. I am saying everything that you watched for the past 15 years, like that matters.
Yeah.
And it's like we're in it. Like this is a thing now, and we're just gonna have to figure out how to deal with that. And I love that. I respect the hell out of that. I just think that's really cool. He's never had to follow anyone before. And so it's so cool, other than all of Classic Who, right? And he sort of had a different marching orders in 2005, which was like, no, we want this to be as clean of a start over, of a refresh, of a reboot as possible. And so now he's like, well, if I come back, I want to do the opposite of that. I don't want to dance around history. I just want to go. And I love that. I think that this, I mean, who knows if he's ever going to try and pay it off or, mess with it at all, or if he's just going to, leave it alone and just say like, do what Chibnal was intending, which was like that we know too much about the Doctor's past. And so he's not like the Doctor isn't a mystery anymore. So let's turn them into a mystery. And I think everyone was coming, including, I think, me at the time, and maybe you guys, I don't know. But I think we were all going into that just being like, all right, you better have some answers, Chibnal, or you're going to get what for. And I think now, in retrospect, it's just like, no, I just really wanted the Doctor to be mysterious again, and now he is. So give him a pat on his own back, and so who knows? Will we ever get this paid off in any way whatsoever? I don't know. but I love that Russell T Davies is like, no, I'm gonna keep it. It's a thing now. Deal with it. What did you guys think?
Yeah, no, I stand corrected, like, you know, because I talked multiple times about how I felt like a lot of 13's run didn't matter, and I'm actually really shocked. I was like shocked when he mentioned it. It feels like a reward a little bit, like for people who have stuck with the show the entire time, like, and I honestly hope that they revisit it, because I'm way more interested in Russell T's take on that material than I am in Chibnall's take on that material. But I think it's like, it's a really, I think I'm more excited now about what 15 is going to be like dealing with and exploring, because that is on the table again.
Yeah.
Because we came around on like the Timeless Child thing. Like
did we? Okay.
If I remember correctly, like we all kind of like that.
I know Nick did. I don't remember how I felt about it.
I don't think that was a thing that you didn't like about that era of the show.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
I think it was more just like the way everything was executed.
Yeah. That's fair, Pat Scott. No, but
something effective. I don't like that they're doing this to the Doctor. This is dumb. It was like, I want the story to be better. I want the episode to be better.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Fair enough. I going to say, just to respond to something Cass said before. I let you talk, Nick. You said it feels like a reward for people who've been watching the show this whole time. And I agree with that. But it also feels like Russell T Davies being like, hey, I know some of you started watching during 13. And I know that some of you are diehard 13s. And I'm just here to tell you in a very soft voice, comforting voice, everything's fine. This is how Doctor Who works. And your era matters. And it's not going anywhere. So chill. Chill, everybody. It very much feels that way. And I think that that's cool, too.
Yeah. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, though, because like Ruth is in all the Doctor Who like promotional material now. Like she's in the lineup. So like, I guess, you know,
she's a Disney princess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, what did you think about all the Flux stuff?
It's so crazy that last week we talked about how each of the three modern showrunners are very sort of self-effacing about their own era of the show, where they think of what they did as fanfic and everything else is like proper Doctor Who. And so to have watched a video on my phone of those three dudes sharing like a coffee table together, and then to see through the page Russell T Davies like shaking hands with Chibnall's era and saying, hey, I know this is an insecurity of yours because it is for me. Your thing is canon.
Yeah.
It mattered, the work you did on the show, and I'm canonizing it now. Is, you know, as a writer, it left me very like warm-hearted.
Yeah.
But then also going back to what Scott said about, I'm just nerding out so hard about 14 being his own Doctor. Because like a Doctor doing a remix of one of his old identities is just so delicious to me.
Yeah.
So giving Tennant as an actor being like, hey, all this time travel, the stuff that Jodie's Doctor went through, that mattered to this dude. And he's still very much in the process of dealing with it. Right. And because like, that's something different than 10 had to do. Because like, I don't think you would want to just be 10 again. That's kind of exciting as an actor to get to be a different kind of dude.
For sure. For sure.
So he seemed like, I guess on a character standpoint, he seemed very like, I don't know what it means that I'm the Timeless Child, or that I did have to Google what happened in Flux, but half the universe. So, because I was like, what was the Flux? And the Flux was like a natural disaster that had been unleashed by, I'm about to unlock you guys' brains, the Division. Remember the Division?
Yeah.
The secret Gallifreyan Black Ops kind of program.
Yeah.
Run by Tecteun, the Doctor's mom.
Yes. Right. Yes. Of course.
So
How could I
the
possibly
Flux-
forget?
so the Flux wiped out half the universe, and the Doctor feels a lot of guilt about that, because they're like, well, I was the reason the Flux was even created.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Also, I just going back to the Chibnal thing and the handshake that you talked about, the metaphorical handshake between eras. I also want to remind everybody that while there have been rumors of like we talked about this last week, while there have been rumors that Moffat is writing an episode in the new series, which hasn't been announced yet, Chibnal has said, I have no idea what's going on in the new era at all. I'm going to be watching it like a fan, like everyone else, because I'm not involved at all. So I'm just imagining Chibnal watching this episode live and then just getting hit in the face by his buddy being like, no, your thing mattered. Don't worry. I just like, I really don't like his era, and I get chuffed thinking about
I know
that.
that's so wholesome.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I just think that's rad. So, I just wanted to mention that because that was the mental image that was hitting my mind while Nick was talking, and I was like, oh, Chibnal.
Because he has to know a little bit of how divisive his era is, even if he's like not on the internet or on Twitter. It's kind of like, in the ratings were the ratings, but it's really wholesome.
Yeah, it is. So I don't remember if that conversation happens before or after they're in the bridge and they see the horse face alien.
The captain.
Yeah, the captain.
I think it's before.
It's before. Okay, so we end up in the bridge eventually. They figured out that like the more that they think through a problem or whatever, the more the people are the copies are like learning how to become them because they want to replace them basically to get off the ship. But they see the captain sort of like float by. It's like a horse skull. It's a very like obvious like horse skull.
It's Beta Ray Bill.
But what's interesting, that's the thing. So what's interesting is that I've seen a lot of people complain about this and be like, ugh, it's just a horse skull. Everybody knows. If you know what a horse skull looks like, you know that that's just a horse skull. And it's like an unaltered horse skull. Obviously watching this with my wife, who's very
who knows her horse skulls,
knows her horse stuff. She was like, "Oh, it's like a horse astronaut." Spent the rest of the episode being like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see what the horse captain looked like."
No.
And then we just never got to see her, unfortunately. She was very disappointed about that.
I have to press the button.
But I will say, credit where credit's due, going back to that behind the scenes thing, they did show some early concept art, and the captain is a horse skull. So that was always the plan. So it's not like they just got whatever they could get and just like used that in the episode. It was always the plan that like apparently she's like a horse face alien, and I don't know, whatever.
I love that.
We got talking cats. In the last RTD era, so why can't there be talking horses? You know,
what was the did they think the BBC dug up like a real horse skull?
Well,
or is it that it was campy, like too weird?
I don't know. I just saw that people were like rolling their eyes at it, that they were just like, ugh, God, that's so lame.
Another horse skull.
They just thought it was lame that it was just a horse skull, that it wasn't like an alien skull or something. That it's like, oh, it's just a horse skull. You know?
Okay.
Because they still film in Wales, right?
Well, they started filming there again with this.
Okay.
These specials.
Is that supposed to be like a Mary Lou reference, like the horse skull thing? Like they do the Christmas horse skull, and then there's like a rap. Like there's so the Welsh they have this tradition where they have like a horse skull on a stick and they deck it out in like holiday stuff, and then they go like door to door and they like there's like a traditional song, and if the horse skull thing like wins the song, they take all your booze, and that happens in like December. So like, is that
Cass? I don't think I've ever loved you more.
I swear to God, I'm not making this up.
I know you are.
I don't know
you
if it's like, I don't know if I'm actually communicating like the specifics of this correctly, but like,
Oh, you painted a very vivid picture. I can see it.
It's
Yeah.
like, you know those fake like riding horse toys with like the stick and then it's a horse head on a stick. It's like that, but it's a skull. And they
Yeah. But they paint it and decorate it.
yeah, they like decorate it, and then like once like someone like manipulates it like a puppet, and then they basically like do like a sing song back and forth, and then if the thing wins, they like go in and take all your booze.
That's wild.
The American Southwest also that does skull art. You know.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I have no idea where this tradition comes from. I have no idea like how it started or why, but like I kind of love it, and I'm wondering if that's like why it's a horse skull.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No
that
pun
is wild.
But I guess in defense of it being just like a random alien, I think it being a horse skull, the audience can be like, "Oh, okay, cool, horse alien." I can.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was like just a weird nothing sci-fi shape, it might not register the way that like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what it was is like I think people would have wanted something more akin, because we're at the edge of the universe. I think people probably wanted something more akin to like what are there?
Something more esoteric,
like the space jockeys in Alien. You know?
Yeah,
we were like, what the hell are these? Oh my god. Yeah, especially with how big that corridor is. Like you could imagine a much larger alien being there. Which,
a giant horse, if you will.
Yeah, giant horse. Yes. That would have been, yes. But yeah, I don't know.
So I have a question. And this is a plot question. Did the horse astronaut? I didn't get the impression that her and her crew were from the edge of space, but that she had traveled to the edge of space.
Right. They got caught there. Got pulled through a black hole or whatever.
Pulled in a time slip.
Right. I don't know if she was alone previously or what, and I don't think we find out where these things came from, right? Were they
the not things?
Yeah. Were the not things from the edge of space, or did they
they explicitly say that they're from like the nothingness.
Oh, okay.
They're from over the edge.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Because that's why they don't have any concept of like shape or
right. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, hold on. I'm pulling now. I need to pull some threads because they are these not things from beyond the edge of space, from a place that no one has ever been before. Mm-hmm. And they come here and they don't know how to like form themselves or like figure out like what form they are. And so they're kind of like everything and nothing. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, that's also describing the Doctor as the timeless child in a way.
Wow. Boom.
Because we don't know where the Doctor comes from. We don't know what species they are. Now that we know that they're not Gallifreyan.
Right.
And the regeneration thing comes naturally to the Doctor versus Time Lords who are given that power by other Time Lords. So that's interesting. I feel like there's something there that was going on with what Russell T Davies was writing about in this episode.
That's great. I've only seen the episode once, so I'm misquoting, but at one point, Not Thing Doctor has some sort of line where he says like, we've been watching from the other side, like we are your reflection, or like we're a mirror. And so the idea of, from a character standpoint, the not things representing how the Doctor views themselves at the moment of like, my whole identity is in flux. I don't even know what my gender is or what space do I take up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Man. That's good. I like that.
For sure.
I don't know. It's cool. Okay, so they basically come to the conclusion that, so this whole time they've been talking about loud, the only thing that's happened in the past 3 years is that an airlock door opened and then closed. They've been talking about this whole time.
3 years ago.
And they keep talking about like, oh, that must have been where when these things got on the ship or whatever. And like, I don't know about you guys, but as soon as they mentioned that, I was like, oh, that's when the people that were on this ship like killed themselves. That's I just assumed immediately that that's what happened. But it took them a long time to get there in the episode. But they figure out that like when the horse lady kind of scoots past the front window, they're like, oh, that was what the airlock thing was. It was her killing herself. Well, why would she do that? And then they figure out that she set up like a trap for these not things of a slow motion self-destruct sequence where she sets up this robot to push the instant self-destruct button, but like to do it over the course of like 3 years. Which is completely insane. Like that's a pretty wild concept, and I mean this as a compliment because it's very much a Russell T Davies episode, but it feels very much like a Moffat-y twist reveal. You know, even though like this doesn't really feel like a Moffat-y episode necessarily.
Well, I could be incorrect. Tell me if I'm wrong. But could you accurately describe what the horse captain did as like a much smaller scale heaven sent plan? Just, I
mean, I guess so. To
having the patience to do something over a long extended period of time.
Well, but she killed herself immediately upon setting the trap.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I'm thinking of the robot walking slowly over the course of 3 years.
Yeah. It's more the robot is the heaven sent.
He's the one doing a heaven sent.
Yeah, he's the one punching the wall once every day for 1,000,000 years or whatever it is.
I think that's one hell of a bird.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. What do we think about, first of all, what do we think about the Mrs. Bean thing and that being the final question that tricks the Doctor into letting the other one on board? And also, do we think he deliberately chose the wrong one, or do you think his plan all along was like, I have no idea what the correct answer to this is, so I'm just pulling one in randomly and measuring its arms?
I don't know. Because I think like the drive to explain humor, it comes across as like not like human, you know, like you know, it's funny because it is. Like, you know, like it's like difficult to like explain why a joke is funny, I think.
Right.
So I don't know.
I like the idea that, because knowing that wasn't the real Donna, you're like, right. Oh, I get it. Real Donna was really nervous, so she actually did try to explain the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fake Donna was like, it just is. I'm just, you know, like I'll do some, and like that's only real Donna would say that.
Yeah.
But and then what Scott's saying, the idea of like he was just like, he's that smart, he knew, but his plan was to get the fake Donna on first and then slide her out of the TARDIS. Or it's like, oh shit, I got the wrong one. Well, hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think the plan was always to test whichever Donna he brought on board with the arm measurement thing. And if it was the right arm measurement, then he's like, well, sure hope you're the real thing. But then you know, measuring that one, seeing that it was off, he was like, oh, okay, I got the wrong one. No big deal. I'll get the right one. This is a time machine after all.
It's fair.
So, yeah.
Cass, since you're not on Twitter, someone made a tweet where it was like, wow, I can't believe Donna's dead. R.I.P. Donna Noble, iconic character. And it was just the shot of fake Donna getting blasted with the flames.
That's funny.
Out of context.
This is 2 Donna fake outs in a row.
Oh no. No, don't do that to me.
Just want to point that out.
No.
Did either of you watch the promo for next week? I did not.
No, I didn't.
I did. It just, it was just like an amalgam, like a combination of
Okay.
clips that we've already seen before. Like there
Okay.
wasn't anything new in it. So it's, you know, like
I'm just thinking about in the old days, they maybe would have like, and one of these two will die.
Oh yeah.
You already know it's gonna be him. But
No. The only thing okay, that's true. The only new images in the thing is a shot of 14th starting to regenerate, and a shot of Shudigatwa on the in the TARDIS console room wearing part of 14th outfit.
Ooh.
That's it. And it was like, you know, like he's a coming or whatever it said. I forget, but it was something like that.
he's coming.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if next week's episode is going to be like feature length, because I don't know how they can get through everything they need to get through with like the plot of next week's episode, in addition to dealing with whatever is going to go on with this regeneration process. Feels like a lot to do in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Has there ever been a mid-episode regeneration?
I mean, not counting Stolen Earth. I don't think so.
Okay. Where, like, for example, like 14's like, well, smoke him if you got him. And then he regenerates.
No.
And then Chudigat was like, all right, time to beat Neil Patrick Harris. Let's do it. And then like he's the one that gets it to the finish line.
No, that would be cool. And that would certainly be a like only time that's ever happened kind of deal. And would make sense because looking forward to the Church on Ruby Road, the Christmas special, it seems like 15 is like fully formed, ready to go. Like it's not like a regeneration episode. Like it feels very, I don't know. Like it just feels like he's like done. Like he's done cooking already and like ready to go on to his first big adventure, you know? So that would be cool. If that's what the like we've never done this before thing is, that would be rad.
Oh.
That would be pretty rad. A mid-episode regeneration.
That's
that would be
cool.
cool. What if remember in that big blockbuster trailer where like the celestial toy maker shows up in like a helicopter or a jet with like a bunch of like guns? What if he just blows the 14th Doctor away and he regenerates on that roof, like just right then and there?
Oh my god!
Just goes down in a hail of bullets, like
Yeah.
7.
Hope you like David Tennant. Jesus, that's funny.
It's totally unceremoniously.
Yeah. Oh man,
I'm
do you
down.
think if Donna witnesses the regeneration, do you think she'll make reference to like asking him like, do you have any body parts laying around? We could do that thing again.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, last time I was here, we had a solution to this problem. I don't know. Anyway,
I'm trying to think of any other meaningful like conversations that they had before we move on to like speculation theory part of the show.
well, we should talk about Wilf, right?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
my god, of course. Absolutely.
Which by the way, this is really sad, but this is the last we will see of Wilf. He is not in the Giggle, and he was supposed to be in the Giggle, but his health took a bad turn after filming this scene,
No.
and he died kind of shortly thereafter. So he is not in the Giggle. This was the last time we will ever see
sad.
him, unfortunately. It was beautiful though. Like I loved the scene. I loved like, man, just like, first of all, I love the setup earlier where Donna's like talking about how like, if I never get to go back, this is what it's going to look like. Everybody's going to move on except for my grandpa, who's going to be sitting in the spot where the TARDIS was with a thermos, just waiting and hoping that I'm going to come back. And he'll be there every day. And then when they do come back, there he is waiting. And I just thought that was typical Wilf and also like adorable and sweet and so amazing. But the look on Wilf's face when he sees 14, the sense of like shock and like, yes, like, oh my gosh, I'm like seeing my friend again. and this guy that like I look up to a lot, this like hero of mine, but also the guilt that he has probably had this whole time because he was the cause of Ten's regeneration. To see that face again, probably like, I mean, his heart probably just like burst out of his chest in that moment. And I just think that it's beautiful to give that character that sort of moment of like, hey, it was all okay in the end. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because you just know he felt guilty as hell this whole time for like 15 years. So
it made me teary. Like, it was really, really good to see him again. And like, I was hoping that he was going to be in the next one, and that makes me really sad that he's not. But like, I'm glad that they were able to at least film this so that he has like closure. Because I don't know, Wilf's great.
Yeah.
And going back to it feels just going back to what we talked about last week with the Star Beast of it just always felt for those 15 years like there was unfinished business with the nobles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That there was stuff left to revisit, and now enough time had passed that it really, the magic, only Doctor Who can do this, where when Wilf sees 14 and sees his doctor again, like the catharsis and the relief and the joy and the fact that we've traveled that journey of time with him, because we watch this story every couple of Christmases, that iconic scene with Bernard Cribbins and David Tennant in the diner, which is some of the best acting I think Who's ever had. And and then like the magic of when his dialogue of like nothing is in the world is wrong, everything is right because you're here, Wilf. I was like, that is exactly what my heart is saying right now.
Yeah.
It was like healing stuff almost weirdly from like just seeing this happen again. And like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It's going, then, also everything's on fire and people are running around.
Right, yeah.
right. Well, it's like, so funny story about everything being great. Nope. It's actually really scary and we all need you to help.
Things are horrible now, Doctor. They're terrible.
Look at them. They're just fighting. There's no reason for it.
Oh man. So I was really expecting a Neil Patrick Harris tease, but
I kind of was too. Like coming up on like a TV or something.
Like the Master.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Ooh, so Cass, we've been talking about how this trilogy is sort of a gumbo, sort of a cosmic gumbo of New Who.
Right.
What elements, what shows could you see the giggle like trying to catch or hone in on or reference?
I mean, like it's the finale, right? So like it's all of those crazy 2-parters where or 3-parters in the case of series 3, where like everything that can possibly happen is probably going to happen, because like an airplane crashed like again.
Yeah. I'm getting big end of time vibes. From this. One, you've got like a big, wacky, charismatic villain. I'm very curious to see how they differentiate the Celestial Toymaker from just an iteration of the Master. Like how they make him different. I'm interested to see what that is. I'm interested to see the explanation as to like why he's younger now than he was the last time we saw him. And for you, Nick, I'll be very curious to see how it works for you, having never seen the Celestial Toymaker episode. And you won't see it for a very long time because it's one of like the last handful of First Doctor stories. It's like it's like his third from the end or something like that. Like it's one of the very last ones.
I mean, going back to history, this whole era is history repeating itself. It is very much like me going back to 2008 and finding out who the Master is through the John Saxon episodes.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But I agree with you though. Like, he can't just be like, I'm also like the Joker. Like
right.
What makes him different?
Yeah. And it better not just be that he's the Riddler, because that's barely different from the Joker.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
In most cases. I'm curious about that. So in terms of theories, I did want to throw out one theory that I thought of while watching this episode. So the discussion of Flux and the Timeless Child and all of that came up, and we're wondering, like, oh, is that going to come back into play, into the plot? Or, my feeling is like, or maybe like it's just there to be like, oh, the Doctor's a mystery again, and that we'll just leave it at that. We don't need to like dwell on it, whatever. But if they did choose to dwell on it, and they decided to like make it part of the plot next season and make it part of 15's journey. And I think the thing that I thought of, the reason I thought of this was like, we were talking when I had the revelation that like the thematic sort of relevance of the Timeless Child and the not things or whatever. What if the Ronnie is indeed the villain of the next season of the show? What if the thing that they do is that they make the Ronnie also from the same place, and that's how they differentiate her from the Master? It's like that, and that's why she's coming back now, is because she's like, yeah, no, we have this thing in common. I didn't know you were from there either, but I am also from there. We're from the same place. And like, that's how they make her different from the Master, who is at the end of the day just Gallifreyan.
Is there any way that when the Doctor became aware, that maybe like when you became online, when you remembered, I remembered, and I had no one was holding my fucking hand.
Right. That's true. Yeah. That would be cool.
Huh.
Yeah. And it would be cool because it would add a layer to the few times that we've seen her before, which is that, and the big complaint with the Ronnie is that like she's not that much different from the Master, except that she does more like science experiments and she's got like a bunch of weird shit in jars and all that stuff. But like, if she is from another universe and that's where her interest in all of this comes from, of like treating this universe like a giant science experiment, it's sort of like, I don't know. I feel like there's something there that you could massage and turn into a new take on that character that differentiates her from just like being a female Master, especially post Missy, where it's just like, now it feels really redundant, but like maybe we can figure out a way to massage it so it doesn't feel that way anymore.
Huh.
I don't know. Any thoughts? Thoughts, feelings?
Cass is doing on it.
Yeah, because when you first started talking, I was like, no, I don't think I like that. But now I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, that could be very interesting. I don't know.
It would fully depend on what it was, right? Like what? Because I don't have the take. I'm just pulling at some threads and seeing if there's something potentially there if they wanted to go there. I think, but it would take massaging, and it would have like I'm sure if Russell decided to do that, he has like a take on that,
right?
Whatever that is. But it was just something that I thought of. Like, I feel like he would remind people of that if he wasn't going to do something with it,
right?
But who knows? I don't know. Nick, do you have any thoughts? You barely remember the Ronnie.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, jeez Louise. I turned into the Mr. Krabs meme when that happened. I have something between a prediction and a wish I would like to say on air before we go into the giggle next week.
Okay.
So, when I, talking about the end of time and like how crazy and campy those finales were, I want RTD to do something that is on the level of Barack Obama's going to do a speech that's going to fix the world economy. Or the Deal or No Deal robot. Or the Weakest Link robot, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or like Big Brother. Just something really gaudy and UK and half-baked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Like he goes to Love Island for a scene.
Sure.
That's
that's funny. Oh man, every time I think about, every time I watch End of Time, I'm like, God, this was so long ago. This like literally like almost 15 years ago at this point, and it's Barack Obama, and I'm like, man, that doesn't feel like that long ago.
Right?
This is so wild. It feels like it should be like George Bush Jr. But it's not. It's because that was even longer ago. Man, crazy. Anyway, time.
We're old now, Scott.
It comes for all of us.
That's what Doctor Who's about.
Yep. No, that's really funny. I was also thinking like when you were talking, I thought you were going to reference like something like crazy and outlandish, like that time when the Master's like eating all those cheeseburgers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just like hunched over on a bench eating like 17 cheeseburgers.
Or when Cass was talking about how weird the finales were, the first image that popped in my head was the Doctor as a little old man.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Right.
Gollum
Yes.
Potato Doctor.
Yeah.
Like,
or the Master dancing to the Dandy Warhols.
Oh.
Yeah. Like I kind of want something cursed.
Yeah, something cursed. Bring us something cursed.
Cursed. Neil Patrick Harris. I mean, it's not unreasonable to think we might be getting a Celestial Toymaker musical number.
That's actually true.
God, I hope so.
That's actually true. Yeah. So that could be the cursed thing, certainly. Anyway, I am looking forward to next week.
Yeah.
I think it should be a big banger of an episode. That's what David Tennant and Russell T Davies say, is that it's just like it goes ham for sure. That's what they said. It's like a big blockbuster. So
nice.
Yeah.
There was I can't remember when, but there was a point towards the end of this episode, towards the end of Wild Blue Yonder, where it hit me that he's going to the 14 is going to regenerate next week. And I was bummed. I was like kind of gutted.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's totally the point. You know, that has to be the point.
Right.
But it's like, God, like we're just getting to know this character.
Yeah. Part of me kind of hopes, I think that's why I'm trying to make the regeneration more weird than it's probably going to be, because I kind of want to like delegitimize 14 in some way, because it makes me too sad that he only has 3 adventures and then regenerates again.
Yeah.
I think that's why I want it to be like a weird regeneration, because I don't want 14 to be real if that's, if that's the situation, because I will miss him. It makes me sad. It definitely bumps me out.
Cass, any thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, like, it is sad in the way that a regeneration is always sad, but like I think I'm just like enjoying these 3 adventures, and then like I am ready to like dig into 15,
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for 15. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely excited for 15. It would just be cool. I think, and we'll see, like maybe I'll feel differently next week after we watch that episode, and it's just like, oh man, yeah, no, we got everything we could possibly want from this guy. But like it would have been cool to have like even if it was like twice as many episodes, like if it was like 6 specials, like a 6 episode series with this Doctor, where it's a little more like Eccleston-y of like a one and done season. But there's something about like just 3 episodes that doesn't quite feel satisfying.
The last thing I'll say, because it popped in my head listening to you, Scott, is they in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, there's the character that animators called R.I. Peter. Yeah. The one who dies.
Yeah.
And the kind of meta thing of that guy was that he was the best Spider-Man.
Yes.
He was like, he had it all figured out. He had the work-life balance in check. He had a great relationship with MJ.
Yeah.
And he was great at he was the best at being Spider-Man. And then he dies. and
Right.
it's a tragedy.
Right.
And I was like, what if 14 is like, he's emotionally available, he's open, he communicates with his loved ones, and he's like ready to do all the work and get into it, and then it's like, boop, gunned down by the celestial toy maker.
I think that's why I liked that this middle episode was just the two of them.
Mhm.
Like, it was just an hour of David Tennant and Catherine Tate doing what they do best, you know? Like, and so it doesn't feel like, after watching that, it doesn't really feel like I'm being like robbed of anything, you know? Like, because like we hit like all of these emotional beats and like we kind of like revisited all of these things that make these characters who they are, like back to back to back, where, you know, if they'd had a normal season, like that would have just been like spread out over like 6 episodes or 12 episodes, you know?
Right.
So
I guess that's true.
It was kind of like micro dosing.
Yeah. I guess that's true.
Like, we would have killed for an episode like this between the Doctor and Yaz back in the day.
For sure. Absolutely.
Chibnal.
I kind of wish Chibnal had just jettisoned all of the plot from everything that he ever did during that era and just made us like very, very simple adventures about a bunch of characters talking to each other, because that's what he is best at, and I wish he knew that. I don't know if either of you watch Broadchurch, but I did, and that's
I watched the first season.
Yeah, and that's
I watched the first season.
That's what that show is, you know? It's a bunch of people talking to each
very
other,
much
and
so.
like that would have been great. And in fact, maybe Chibnall's best episode of Doctor Who is The Power of Three, which is again Doctor and companions just hanging out for most of that show, that most of that episode.
Yeah.
So, you know,
being mad domestic.
Like, can you imagine if, and I know we liked this one at the time, but like the Dalek time loop episode was just the Doctor and Yaz in a time loop trying to figure out what's going on and like breaking down like their problems and whatever, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so great. I had a morning afterthought today of like, God, so much of the Chibnall era, even at the end, was Yaz being like, we need to talk, Doctor. I would love to talk about this emotional stuff. And Doctor being like, out of the way. I got to do, fuck off. I got to do this. And in this episode, they literally couldn't leave the room until they talked about their shit.
Mm-hmm.
And for it to be Donna and being like, finally, like the Doctor can't run anymore. He has to start processing some of the onslaught of new that they're dealing with.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, really great stuff.
Anyway, Doctor Who, it feels so nice to talk about the show again. It really does.
I know, I didn't think this episode would be that long.
See, I told you were worried about it at the beginning, and I said, don't worry about it. Anyway, great episode. Can't wait for next week. And we will be back next Sunday with another new episode to talk about The Giggle. That is one that I will not be waiting to watch. I'll be there in front of my TV like as soon as it drops, because I don't want to mess.
I don't want to get spoiled.
I don't want to get spoiled with that. And I might try watching it twice before we record, just cuz.
Ooh.
So, yeah. Anyway, all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, join the Discord. Lots of cool stuff happening over there. Lots of discussion now that we're back. People are very happy. Everyone was so patient. We adore you all. And I'm so glad that the show is back. And yeah, we're back again next week. And then a few weeks after that. Isn't that exciting?
That's so exciting. That's so good.
That's the best. Anyway, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.